If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Sunday morning. With us today is Steve Cates, otherwise known as Dr. Sky, and he entertains us on Sunday mornings. And when we look up at the sky, all the strange things we've learned about, and so many other things. Tell us, what are we talking about today?
Well, good morning, John, and happy March. And for those that are obviously suffering the deep throes of winter, let's be positive, only 20 days to the beginning of spring. But, John, the big news in space right now, and it's pretty much everybody's probably heard it, but in case they haven't, you're in the right place. NASA's Artemis 2 is delayed once again. Now, the issue here, and this is deep dive here into the thing, apparently there's still some helium leaks in the main fuel tank, and there's also some hydrogen leaks that they obviously don't want to launch 4 humans around the moon. So they have to do this, John. They have to take that massive 322-foot rocket, put it back on the big crawler, and send it back a couple of miles inside the vehicle building, the VAB, to solve the problem. But what a shame, though. I mean, we want safety first, but there seems to be nothing but continual delays here. But we always would agree, let's not launch until we make it right.
Well, we want to make it right because we don't want any more problems like we had in the past. But, boy, it doesn't seem we made a lot of progress in the last 50 years. That's just
You're 100% right,
how I feel.
Right, and when you compare it to what Elon's doing, I mean, he's had some successes and failures, but it seems like they have a better way to get to space. And that's just my opinion. Hopefully NASA can learn a lot from these experiences. And again, they have a great legacy. But again, John, we don't want to launch humans. It's going to be a historic trip around the moon. The next launch date looks like early April. But here's something that I wanted to mention, John. We'll jump right to the mystery of the week, and this I find fascinating. And the question is, what were some of the largest sounds ever heard on planet Earth? We all know about decibels, but what are they? They're logarithmic measurements, John, of sound. In other words, they go exponentially. Now, it's stated that if you hear a decibel sound of some 85, the number 85 decibels, that can be damaging to your ear if you're, standing there over time. But once you get to the level of 120, John, decibels, that can be instant problem. So here we go. Back in 1883, the large volcano Krakatoa, allegedly, John, 310 decibels. And if you were still 100 miles away, the decibels were 172. Now, that's simply earth-shattering, don't you think? And then we find out in 2022, a large eruption of a submarine volcano out in the Pacific. It had about 108 decibels. And, John, it was heard 6,000 miles away. But here's one that you and I know, and I think is most fascinating. Sperm whales, John, they communicate with these clicks called codas. 230 decibels, John, underwater. Isn't that so incredible? I mean, how do these animals do that? How do they communicate? But isn't that an incredible sound? Under the ocean, it travels far. It needs to. That's just amazing in nature. I think that's totally incredible.
It is incredible, but, there's so many things we don't know. When you talk about mentally communicating with other human beings, there's a frequency there.
Sure is. And the Earth has a natural frequency, too. And not to get off into another subject.
Now, the question is,
these frequencies.
At what point does it transverse frequency that animals or humans or dogs transmit versus radio frequencies, and what's the difference?
Well, John, I don't know enough about this, and I'm always honest, but I can say one thing. If you look at bees, if you look at other animals, and you look at birds, the increase in man-made sounds and electromagnetic energy, radio, and certain types of frequencies in microwave, they're certainly having an effect that we're now learning about. But some of the other totally incredible sounds, the Russians, or the Soviets at the time, dropped a most massive hydrogen bomb called Tsar Bomba. It had 224 decibels, A Saturn V rocket is still 204 decibels. But John, the point is, so much we're trying to learn about the universe. And in conclusion, we're finding out that the fourth state of matter, which is called plasma, which is these ionized electrons, it's found in energies from the sun. The astronauts on the moon, John, the reason their spacesuits were so dirty is that on the lunar surface, this plasma floats around these little particles of dust from the moon, and they seemingly attract to the astronauts, or did, dirtying up their spacesuits. AI, they're saying, is helping us learn so much more about these great mysteries of the universe. That's the positive side of it. And finally, John, for observers,
and there's so much that we don't know. The fact that I am sure the whales communicate with each other in different frequencies. I am sure the dolphins communicate in different frequencies. I'm sure the whales and the dolphins have their own language. And
absolutely.
And we should look into that further, because I think that will stretch the minds of our listeners, and I look forward to talking about it.
Absolutely, John. And a quick sky event, Tuesday morning for listeners all across the nation. We have a total lunar eclipse taking place. Not as easily seen on the East Coast, but still visible, mostly for the central and western part. The so-called blood moon, John, as we move into March. Always a privilege and honor to be here on the Cats Roundtable. We do appreciate people listening to the Dr. Sky Experience, Fridays and Saturdays, midnight to 2 a.m., on many of these great mysteries. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking, and God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you, John.
Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.